Hello, Rebecca here with Standing Bear Healing, and I'm going to continue to share my story. And in fact, today I'm going to go back in time a little bit and share with you the foreshadowing of the memories coming back for me of my abuse. So, my abuse memories broke through on January 14th of 1992. Yeah, 1992. And the fall before, I flew from Albuquerque back to Phoenix and spent Thanksgiving there. And I met up with a girlfriend and we went dancing. And we both danced with these two gentlemen that were friends, and we danced, each of us with one of them, throughout the whole evening, had a great time. And exhausted and tired afterwards, they said, "Hey, do you want to go get some breakfast?" So I went to the restroom. When I came out, they were all three in their car. Now, she had driven us. They were all three in their car, and I got in and buckled up, and they announced that they were going back to their hotel room instead, and that we were going to get food from the minibar. Well, of course, what ended up happening is she made out with her friend and the guy that I had been dancing with, who was probably 6'7", really, really tall guy. He ends up basically accosting me on the bed in the hotel room, and I kept turning on the light and buttoning up my shirt, and he would turn it off and undo my shirt, and this went on and on and on, like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then, kind of to my surprise, what I did next was I just put my face into the pillow and I just started crying as quietly as I could. And I didn't want to disturb anyone. And then I just laid there, like from the neck down. I didn't move. And just like whatever he was going to do to me, he just was going to do to me. And luckily for me, when he realized I was crying, he stopped. And when we went to leave, his friend kept looking at me funny, and he kept going, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And I didn't understand why, but clearly I was very triggered, very dissociated. I didn't look like the same person that they had seen, he had seen like an hour earlier. And we left, and my girlfriend kept saying the same thing. "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And then I went back to my mom's house that night. I was sleeping on the couch, and I got undressed, and I wrapped myself in a sheet, and I just rocked. I rocked and I sobbed for, I don't know, hours, I think. Hours, like as in 2 or 3. And the whole time I just kept saying, "Please, please, please don't hurt me. Please don't let them hurt me. Please don't let them hurt me. Please don't let them hurt me." And unbeknownst to me at the time, my mother's bedroom was right on that wall, and she heard the whole thing and never checked on me, never asked me if I was okay or whatever. And it was like a long time later that she let me know she had heard the whole thing. And she said, "Oh, I just thought you were drunk." I go, "Well, I wasn't, and drunk or not, like, that isn't normal, right?" Like, so I flew back to Albuquerque and just tried to go on as if nothing had happened, and because I didn't know, I had no context to understand what had happened. And then some other triggers happened. Even prior to that, I had been in a summer program for minority students who were getting ready to start medical school, which I had been accepted into med school, and they had this great summer program that helped us to get like caught up to speed on all the sciences and everything we were going to need to know, and just kind of try to give us a head start, because a lot of the minority students had not gone to really great schools, and so our backgrounds were not as strong academically. And so I went to that program, and we had cadaver lab. And the day we had cadaver lab, well, I think it was maybe the third or fourth cadaver lab, and they, each cadaver has a set of, I think it was 4 students per cadaver, and we had a task to do each week, right? And so we were to dissect and open up the chest and see all the, heart, lungs, intestines, that kind of thing. Well, this one particular day, it was the hand, and we were supposed to take the skin off our cadaver's hand. And it was extremely difficult because the skin would break off in just little tiny pieces. And so everybody else took their turns and were just like, oh, I'm just frustrated, you know. So I said, it's okay, I'll do it. And everybody else left, and I just stayed in cadaver lab by myself, trying to expose all the tendons and ligaments and stuff in the palm of the hand. And I just kept doing it. And our cadaver was an elderly gentleman. And I remember thinking how, you know, these hands were probably hands that had, you know, held his children and his grandchildren. And, you know, I thought about him as a person. Well, I drove home, and I lived on a 3rd floor apartment. It was the top floor of the building. And I walked up the stairs, and I went in the front door. Not everything seemed fine. There was nothing, no forewarning. And I walked in, and the door had this automatic, it closed on its own, right? It had a spring or whatever. And before that door even closed, I went face down on the carpet. I just took like 2 steps in, fell straight down on the floor face down, and just like sobbed and wailed, you know, like a big ugly cry. Snot flowing and the whole thing. And then I just got up and wiped off my face and washed my hands and fixed dinner. Because again, I had no idea, no context for what that was. Because as far as I knew, there was no trauma in my childhood other than having difficulties with my mother. And even if you back up a little bit further, no, actually kind of right in between those 2 events, I came home from med school one day, and I got out my books to study, and I love to put on the Oprah Winfrey show in the background. And this day, it was a story about this young woman who had these flashbacks to a childhood trauma where she had witnessed her father rape and murder her good friend when she was a little girl. And I had not been aware that there was such a thing as repressed memories at that time. And so after she shares her story, then they go to this, I forget if it was a psychologist or a psychiatrist, and they asked her, you know, what is this? And she said, oh, it's very common if people have been severely abused, starting at a young age, that they will just block the memory, right, of what happened to them. And I had the strangest response. I was just standing there in front of my TV watching that, and next thing I knew, I'd crumpled to my knees, and I put my hand over my mouth, and I started rocking, and I just sobbed. Same thing. I just cried and cried and cried, and then I just got up and like wiped off the tears and went back to my studies. And so these were some of the things in retrospect that they made more sense once I had the memories, which was the following January. So these were in the summer and fall of the year before, 1991. And so that's some of how I came to learn about my own experiences with my own traumas in childhood. And I'm wanting to kind of end each one of these videos with something positive. And I don't really know what that is right at this moment, except to say that I am so completely different today than I was then. Like, my life is so completely different. And not that it's perfect, you know, and of course I'm still healing myself. Like, I think that's sort of if you choose to, it can be a lifelong thing if you want to keep growing and expanding. And so, I don't know, it's just a beautiful, verdant, rainy evening here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And because we're high desert, we're at a mile high, it's just wonderful when we get rain. We love it. I love the smell. And there's a beautiful park right outside my living room here, and I get to see that. And the beautiful part about this is that I've healed to the point where I'm able to share my story, and I'm a professional healer, and I get to help other people who've been through tremendous traumas. And it gives me such a sense of fulfillment because I'm able to be with, no matter how bad it was, right? Like I was just born with this, I'm just wired in such a way that when people share their traumas, their tragedies, their difficulties, their challenges with me, I feel connected. I feel uplifted. I feel grateful that they trusted me with something so personal and so tender. And so it doesn't bring me down. It never has. Ever since I was a kid, adults would come up to me at the airport back when you could still go out to the gate, and I'd be seeing family members off at the gate, and somebody would sit down next to me, some adult when I was 14, 15, 16, 17, and they just sit down and tell me their whole life story, and I can't say how many times people said, oh my God, I can't believe I just told you that. I've never told a single soul my whole life about that. But that's because I've been through so much, and I think that I vibrate that I'm going to have compassion and I'm not going to judge. And so that's just one of the silver linings of the hardships I've been through. So remember that together we rise, and we are rising right now. We are raising up in vibration. We are ascending. We are healing, and we are growing. And know that I love you and I'm here for you. And until next time.